Today I'm talking to Blair Lamb about doing Disney World while pregnant. That's coming up on this episode 506 of WDW Prep to Go. Hello and welcome to WDW Prep to Go, where we talk strategy and ideas for people planning their Disney World trips. And we have lots and lots of trip reports normally, but this week it is a break from those and a chance to talk to Blair Lamb. I like doing interviews sometimes when it makes sense, but I don't actively seek them out usually until something pops up. And this time I was like, why haven't I talked to Blair? I've known her for a long time, and she just recently returned from a Disney World trip. And for those of you that don't know, she is somebody that is on YouTube posting content about her life, which includes a lot of Disney travel, but not exclusively. And that is how we became connected years ago. And since she just got back and just posted some videos, I thought this would be a good time to chat. Before I dive into my conversation with Blair, as always, a reminder to follow on social media. And if you want to be a podcast guest, the only way to do that is using the SpeakPipe information that is linked in the description of every single episode. It is speakpipe.com/WWPrep2Go, I think. And basically you leave a voicemail with the details about your trip. And if it works with our schedule, we will reach out to you to get your pre-trip and post-trip booked. I recently shared on Instagram stories a screen recording where I was searching my email inbox showing all of the SpeakPipe messages that come in. There is a lot of them. So we definitely appreciate all the people that are interested, but we can only fit in a few per month. So just keep that in mind. If you're not chosen, it's not personal. We just only have enough time slots for a few for each month. So I think that's going to be it. Here is my conversation with Blair. Welcome to the podcast, Blair Lamb.
Thank you so much for having me.
I don't often get to say first and last name of guests, but in your case, it's okay.
Yes, you totally can.
So instead of having you introduce yourself, let me see what I can tell the people about you, and then you fill in the gaps.
Okay.
So Blair is a YouTuber, also a fun Instagram, a t-shirt shop, right?
Yes.
I'm correct? I didn't know if you had multiple. I know you have at least one. You live in North Texas.
Yes.
Not from Texas, but live in North Texas.
Correct.
Married with 2 children and almost 3.
Yes.
Most of your content is lifestyle and happens to include some Disney.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
You did great.
Did I miss anything?
I don't think so. I think you did great.
Okay. Blair and I have known of each other for a very long time, and we even did some Star Wars dessert party together once.
Yes, that was so much fun.
Was that before you had any children?
Yeah, I was pregnant with my first.
Okay. So going to Disney World while pregnant is kind of your thing.
Apparently. Yeah, I've been 4 times while pregnant, but the first time I didn't even know I was pregnant. So I got home and I realized after I took a test that I was pregnant. So I've been 4 times, but really 3 where I was very much aware that I was pregnant.
You went in knowing that
Correct.
what you were getting yourself into.
Yeah.
And most recently, you just got back from your 4th Disney World trip while pregnant.
Yes.
And how far along are you?
I now am 28 weeks. At that time of the trip, I was 23 weeks. Going into 24.
6 months-ish?
6 months. Yep.
Yeah.
6 months. Yep.
Okay. And when you booked the trip, I can't remember how long ago you booked it. Did you know you were pregnant?
I did. And, a lot of people are like, why would you want to do Disney while you're pregnant? Well, first of all, we love Disney. We've been doing Disney for a long time. But also, our kids are 6 and 4 years old. So they're a little bit older. And so we wanted to do like one last family, they called it a family moon or a baby moon. We wanted to do something like that just to spend some quality time with them, knowing that after the baby arrives, we're probably not going to be Disneying for like a little while.
Mm-hmm. So I want to go back to the beginning and talk about stuff before the actual babies and the pregnancies at Disney World. But have you been with a newborn, or do you typically wait a little while?
The earliest we've been was when our daughter was about 18 months, I believe, and then we did the same with our son. So we
Okay.
typically have waited. We'll see what we do this time. This time, the third time, I feel like you just kind of strap the baby on and just go. So I'm open to that if all goes well and smoothly, but it also depends on the temperament of the baby, how well they
Mhm.
sleep, all that kind of thing. So, but we've historically waited until about 18 months.
Okay. So you're getting this trip in knowing that there could be a wait. And
Yes.
and by then you might have almost what, 8-year-old?
Yeah. How crazy is that?
And almost 6-year-old? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. This one will have a different birthday than the other two.
Yes, the other 2 are October babies, and this is gonna be a June baby, so I'm looking forward to a little summer babe. I think it'll be fun.
Very different.
Yes.
Let's go back a little bit because before we became aware of each other, you had been like making content. And then as part of that, you would sometimes share, like, here's how I plan Disney trips. And what made you start that? And did you know it was going to take off?
No, I didn't, and I we me and my siblings said, like, we didn't grow up in, like, a Disney family. We went one time, and it was like a whirlwind, and I was joking with my parents, and they were like, "It really wasn't that fun of a trip," because it was just trying to pack every single thing in
Hmm.
for, 5 or 6 days or however long we went, and that was when I was in middle school. So then when I got married and my husband and I were like, "We really wanna go," like, everyone's talking about it, and so that's when I found you, I mean, like a decade ago, and started listening to the podcast, and I'm like, "Oh, there's so much to do. Let's go, let's go." So we ended up going in May of 2016, like 8 months after we got married, or a little more, maybe 9 months after we got married, and then just got hooked, and we've
Hmm.
been, like, every year since and just love it so much, so
You have old videos showing the old version of my website, and it has since been redesigned.
yes.
And so whenever I see it, I'm like, oh, that's why I had to redesign. But I appreciated you sharing because,
I'm sure those old videos of mine are also like, "Oh, glad we've improved since then."
yeah, hopefully that is the idea for sure. But did you know that by sharing that a lot of people were going to be watching? Like, were you a consumer of Disney related videos?
I was not really at all. I wasn't, but one thing that I really love is I love teaching and just, like, sharing in general, and so most of my content just comes from a place of sharing, but I end up like sharing little tidbits of like, this has worked for us or this hasn't worked for us. And I have had so many women who, like, it just on this past trip, like 3 different women came up to me and they were like, "You're the one that convinced my husband to try Disney for the first time. Like, he saw your videos and thought, oh, it's not, there are really fun things to do for adults and for men, and it's not just for little children." And so I think that's cool because it is such a fun place. And some people aren't into it, and that's totally great. But a lot of people really enjoy it, including us. And so I think it's fun to go. I mean, we went adults only multiple times before we even had our first baby.
Hmm. And you continue to go back.
We sure do.
But you also have adorable shirts. Are there other merchandise besides shirts, or is it shirts?
We mostly t-shirts. We also do sweatshirts, hoodies, things like that.
Okay, so tops.
Yes.
And they are Disney and non-Disney. And I know you've had a mix of feelings over the years.
Yes, I definitely have.
So at what point in the process of you creating content on YouTube and going to Disney World did the t-shirt shop launch?
So my husband and his mom own and run a screen printing and embroidery shop, a brick and mortar screen printing and embroidery shop here in our small town in North Texas. So I kind of married into it, and I was at that time blogging and was like, why don't I just launch 3 designs for my blog readers? Definitely not Disney themed in any way. They were just graphic tees, and I really enjoyed that. And then it has just grown and grown and grown, and now it's, my primary business. It's blairlamdesign.com. And so after our first Disney trip, I was like, oh my gosh, like at that time, I mean, it was like a decade ago. It wasn't like it is now where it's so saturated. There's so many fun, unique kind of Disney themed and inspired shirts. It was like pretty dire out there. And so I was like, I want to create some that are more simplistic, that are like
Mhm.
a nod to Disney, but not maybe so over the top. And started doing that, and it just really took off. And then we've gone through cycles, because one of the tricky things with that is that people like to order, of course, for their trips. And oftentimes, because we do made to order, we don't have like an inventory warehouse. We actually are physically making the shirts. it's really tricky. The turnaround time can be really tricky. And it was stressing me out years ago. I just couldn't hack it.
Mhm.
And anyway, time went on. We found new systems, hired more people, figured it out, and we're back in it. We can do a pretty quick turnaround time, but it's definitely been an up and down roller coaster ride of a business.
Mhm. I have observed you setting various boundaries for yourself at different phases of life. Like when you're in new parenthood, maybe you don't have comments turned on or something like this. So it felt like with the shop, you were like, I can't handle the insistence on quick turnarounds, so I'm just not going to sell them.
I was like, I just need to take a big step back because if it's my job and I'm choosing to do it, and I was just, the joy was getting sucked out of it for me. And so I had to really reevaluate.
Mhm. But I knew when the Disney shirts came back that you must have figured out something.
Yes, we totally did. I hired a salaried employee and she works every day, and like just a lot of different things like that had to change in order for me to be able to be a present wife and mom and friend and not just only be a business owner 24/7. And it's finding that balance, as you know, is a little bit elusive.
Well, you have almost 3 children to take care of too.
Yes.
And so they are not in school full time. You have a lot of stuff to do with them.
I do. It's a lot of hands-on. I go to sleep at night. I sleep heavy.
Yeah. Well-earned sleep for sure. All right. Okay. So I'm going to link to your shop in the description. So for people that want to know, Blair has the cutest stuff. And you have run ads at times. So I bet some people watching may have seen those ads.
Oh, that would be fun. Yes. We started running ads about a year ago. That's a whole other beast, but it's been great.
It's a whole other beast, but it was targeted well because I have seen so many new options I didn't know existed through the ads.
Oh, good. That's really great to hear.
Yes. All right. So let's talk a little bit about your Disney journey because I wanted to talk to you specifically about doing Disney World while pregnant because it's something you've done a few times, most of the time on purpose.
Yes.
You booked it
Yes.
knowing you were going to be pregnant. So you told us this last one, you were 6 months pregnant and that you knew ahead of time when you booked it that was going to be the case. What were your biggest concerns going into this particular trip, knowing that you were going to be 6 months?
Yeah, really good question. That's the furthest along that I've gone, being 6 months along. The other 2 times I was 19 weeks along. And so 19 versus 23 doesn't seem like a lot, but it actually was. So I was worried about, just like my energy level and just the physical nature of carrying. Also, like when I carried my first, especially, I was still real small. My belly was small. The third one, immediately, it's just like this huge bump. And so it's just a lot to carry around. So I was worried about that. And I didn't want it to negatively impact our trip. And I didn't want it to make it about me and be, I wanted my kids to have a great time and not be like, mommy's exhausted. Mommy needs to, sit, whatever. So
I think that is the hardest part about first pregnancy versus others is like first pregnancy, if you want to rest, you rest. After that, you have kids to take care of.
Yeah, there's not much of that going on. Yeah, and my kids are older, than naps. So we just do movie afternoons a lot. We're heavy into the movie afternoons. Yeah.
Yeah. So in general on these trips, how do you approach certain things like ride restrictions? Like, do you follow Disney's guidelines, which to me feel very strict, or is it doctor's guidelines? How do you do that?
Yeah, that's another great question. So I asked one of the cast members out of curiosity. I said, obviously I'm pregnant. What is your stance on me getting on this ride? And she was like, I cannot legally tell you to not board this ride. It was Kilimanjaro Safari. And I said, I've been on this ride probably a dozen times. I feel like it's no bumpier than country roads. And she started laughing and she kind of nodded, but she couldn't obviously say, I agree, because I do agree with you that I think, of course, they have to cover themselves from a liability perspective. And so they're going to just broadly say, don't ride this, don't expect it, mothers shouldn't. She said to me, if you feel comfortable and you don't have any pre-existing conditions, I have seen a lot of pregnant women get on this ride. So I got on that one and felt it was no more bumpy than just, we live in a area. So
Exactly. It's funny that you mentioned Kilimanjaro Safari. That is the one I was thinking of when
yes,
I asked the question, because I'm like, I don't really get the guidelines there because it is just like a car ride.
it's a car ride. Yeah. And I mean, of course, like if a woman has something that's, a pre-existing condition that would, for whatever reason, that would exacerbate it, of course. But I think for a low risk pregnancy, Kilimanjaro Safari is like a very reasonable ride to get on.
Mm-hmm. So are you making decisions about rides based on how you know the rides feel or how intense the rides are?
Yeah, I was. And like even some of them, it was interesting because one of my favorites is Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway in Hollywood Studios. I love that ride. And my kids are inexplicably just terrified of it. We have done it 3 or 4 times with them. Every single time they are horrified and terrified. And so on this trip, I was like, I'll just hang out in the courtyard. And on this trip, my parents met up with us. And so my mom and dad and my husband, Riley, went on Runaway Railway and I stayed back with the kids. And it was funny because I bumped into a friend in that moment and we were chatting and she was like, you actually probably should be glad you didn't go because I went when I was pregnant and I was forgetting how jostling that ride is. So it's like sometimes I'm thinking of it as a pretty smooth trackless ride. And then she was saying, she's like, I actually got off and felt kind of unsure that I had gotten on it. So it's a little bit tricky, I think, at times.
Yeah, it reminds me of, I did a trip report episode recently where she traveled with a niece who was afraid of the dark, I think it was. And she's like, I didn't really realize how many things were dark and loud until I was with a child that was afraid of dark and loud because her older kids hadn't been afraid of that. Yeah,
Yes.
you don't always pay attention to those unless you're in that phase.
Exactly.
So yeah, I can see that. But I'm assuming that even though there are things you couldn't ride, that you still have plenty to do and fill your days.
Absolutely. And honestly, we left after 6 days and I had this long mental list of things we never got around to. And so it was one of those things. We were not moving at lightning speed. We were definitely not like rope drop to fireworks there's just no way. The kids were getting tired. I definitely was my energy was waning. So, but it was very interesting to me because I thought, one of my friends said, gosh, I can't believe you went for 6 days. That's so long. And I was thinking, I could have done 12. Like we still didn't do a lot, because it just takes time and we were enjoying ourselves and we were doing a more leisurely pace. But yes, you're right. There were plenty of attractions to fill our days, plenty of foods to eat and things to do. And yeah, we definitely had no problem.
I mean, when you're home, it's not like you're sitting still.
Right.
You're used to being busy. It's just a different kind of busy.
Exactly.
All right. I know that you had struggled with one element of this trip, which was you ended up renting a scooter.
I did.
Was this your first time?
This was my first time renting a scooter. And I at first brought it up to my husband kind of like, what if I rented a scooter? And he's like, well, I mean, if you need one, then rent one. And I'm like, oh, I'm sure I'll be fine. I'm sure I'll be fine. And I was not fine. So after our first full day, which we did Magic Kingdom in the morning and then Epcot in the evening, I don't recommend that if you're pregnant, park hopping between really any parks, but that was just a lot of walking. And I get that pelvic pain. It's called SPD, and it's really acute and severe, and walking really makes it worse. And so after the end of that day, we got back into the hotel and I just thought, I cannot, this is only our first full day. I still have 4 more days of this. And so the next day we went to Animal Kingdom and I'm like, I'm just going to rent a scooter. We'll just see how it goes. And it was actually such a big help to me. And I didn't use it through all of the queues and everything, where some people would need to. It's everything is accessible virtually, but I was able to just use it to get from like one section of the park to the next. And then I would park it and then I would walk around that section of the park comfortably and then get back in and then ride it and park it. And I did that for 2 days in a row after that initial first day. So days 2 and 3, I had an ECV and I am so glad that I did that. And since then, have had many different women message me on Instagram and say, because of you, I went to Disney, I rented a scooter. I'm so glad I'm pregnant. And you've got to just do what you got to do to be comfortable.
Exactly. but it can be a mental hurdle to get over. Like, am I a person that needs a scooter? Well, right now it looks like you might be, at least
Exactly
temporarily.
that.
We have a private Facebook group for our patrons, and somebody had posted, I pregnancy, might need a scooter, and people were like, Blair Lamb did it. Blair Lamb did it.
Oh, that's so funny. That's really, yeah. It was such a game changer for me. And I felt that way. I felt like, gosh, like pregnancy is kind of a different category, and I wasn't sure I just wasn't sure. But my husband was laughing at me because as I was riding, I kept rubbing my belly, and he's like, you don't have to like prove to people that you don't need to show anyone why you are using that. I'm like, I'm not even doing that on purpose. This baby's just kicking me. But it ended up being great. And I saw several other pregnant women with scooters, and had several women come up to me and say, who had babies or toddlers, and they were like, the last time I was here, I rented one. I'm so glad you did. It makes such a big difference. So just permission to everyone out there. Like, if you need one, rent one.
No, but I also like Riley's reminder that you don't really have to explain it.
You don't.
You don't have to. You can do whatever you
need
need
a
to
reason.
do. Sometimes
Yeah.
things are invisible, and
So
sometimes
many times.
sometimes they're 6-month pregnant visible, but they don't.
Yeah. Like, and people don't, people can tell that I'm pregnant, but I also actually have pretty severe scoliosis, curvature of the spine, which is part of the reason why I get such severe pain. And you can't tell typically just looking at me. But I'm not walking around with a sign that says, I also have scoliosis. In addition, I just had to let it go and just think, you know what? Like, I'm doing what I need to do for me and my family, and plenty of other people are doing the same thing. And after like an hour, I realized that no one cares. No one was looking at me. Everyone's just enjoying their days. And I'm not the main character. Like, it doesn't matter, So, and that was just such a freedom to just enjoy the trip.
Exactly. And then you got to have a good trip and not worry about everyone else.
Exactly.
So that's nice. So how does your park rhythm look when non-pregnant versus pregnant? Like, are you rope drop to close kind of person if you're not pregnant, or how does it look?
Sure. So when I'm not pregnant, we typically will. I do love getting into the parks early. So if not, rope drop pretty close to it and spend a good amount of time. We are not rope drop to fireworks people. I love going back to the resort in the afternoon and doing the pool or whatever, like taking a nap and resting. It's just not, it has never worked well for our family. And especially once we brought kids into our lives, like it was just not working well. And this trip was just so much more leisurely paced, and I actually just loved it. So we woke up, we did set an alarm, but it wasn't super duper early, and we would get into the parks at like maybe 10, and just we had coffee and breakfast at the hotel, and then would head into whatever park we were doing, walk around, enjoy, we did the lightning lanes and everything, so we weren't waiting in super long lines. And then most of the nights we were heading back around 8 to 9 p.m. or so. But one night, Magic Kingdom was open till 11, and we did stay like past closing time. And that was super duper fun, but I paid for it the next day. I was so tired the next day.
But also your kids were able to stay up that late?
Yeah, they were doing great. We started to have like light to medium meltdowns there in the very end. So we ended up renting or hiring a minivan to take us back to our resort just for it to be just very quick, easy transportation, which although the price is high, I just think minivans are such a blessing sometimes. And so it was really nice to do that after a long day. But yeah, they hung in there. We do still bring a double stroller for them so they could they didn't really nap, but they could chill and rest.
Yeah, when you were talking about needing an ECV just to get from point A to point B, it reminded me of having kids about your age who at home, maybe they're not in a stroller very much, but it's helpful to get them from point A to point B.
That's exactly right. Exactly. Like that was the first time we had used our stroller since our previous Disney World trip, like over a year ago. And it was all cobwebbed in the corner of the garage. And my husband had to like power wash it before Disney. But you're right. It's different. Disney walking and Disney days just are very different than walking around our neighborhood.
Given the fact that you said you would be more leisurely and arrive around 10 or so, do you have feelings on the current Lightning Lane system versus Genie Plus?
Oh my gosh. I didn't dislike it as much as I initially disliked Genie Plus. My qualm with it is I feel like I've been in the Disney community for over a decade and try to really keep up with what's going on. And I feel like I understand in general the way the app works. But newbies are just so confused. And I just feel that it's so difficult for
Mhm.
newcomers and people who are coming on their first trip. And that really makes me sad.
It does. But I think in your case, as a non-first timer, maybe having the pre-booked lightning lanes made it easier to stroll in later?
It definitely did. From a logistics standpoint, it really worked out well, and we
Mhm.
cruised. I mean, we didn't wait in, I don't think, even one single standby lane, really, honestly, the whole
Mhm.
trip. Like, we cruised in and out. But, like, my aunt, who's, 70 years old, wants to take her grandkids, and she called me the other day, and I just was like, "Can we give the grandkids the phone?" Because they're, like 10 and 12. I just am thinking, it's very hard for me to imagine her being able to keep up with. It's a lot. It's a lot to keep
Mhm.
up with. For me, it's just part of it. It's an extension of the trip. But like, my mom was with us for half the trip, and she's like, "What are you doing on your phone over there?" It's a very different thing than the paper fast passes that she remembers 20 years ago.
Yeah, and I know that Disney is doing things through the app or online or whatever because, times are changing, more things are that way, but it does eliminate a certain demographic of people
It really
who are
does.
like, What do you mean I have to mobile order my food?" or whatever?
Exactly, exactly. And I was telling my sister, I said, our aunt wants to take the kids and whatever. I said, but my concern would be that if she didn't know how to use it, then they would be waiting in really long standby lanes and that standby
Mhm.
queues. And that's not fun either. So it's kind of this tricky thing where I'm like, have one of the grandkids FaceTime me, I'll explain, and I know he can do it.
Mhm. Yeah, it is. It is. Listen, we always have mixed feelings when they announce things like this. We're like, number one, oh my gosh, too complicated. Number two, job security. But if Disney World made things easy, we would not have job
Yeah,
security.
you always have a new thing to explain with the Lightning Lanes, the Genie
I'm
Plus.
like,
It's always.
I'm happy to create graphics and spreadsheets and whatever else people need.
Yes,
But
yes.
also,
I did think it worked.
I'm sorry this is difficult, but because it is, let's try to explain it.
Absolutely.
So, how, if at all, does pregnancy affect your dining approach to dining?
Well, it was super fun to be in Disney while pregnant, as it always is, because I just have a greater appetite and there's delicious foods all around every corner.
But you're not nauseous at this time.
No, I'm not. My other two pregnancies, I had such bad nausea for so long. And this one, I did not. And so that was actually really fun. I did really prioritize protein. So when we
Mhm.
would go and get meals and things, I would just really try to make sure that I was eating a lot of protein because that's going to help, for all of us need a lot of protein, but definitely when you're pregnant. So that was helpful. And then I also did order a grocery delivery full of snacks to our hotel room on the day we arrived, as well as a whole bunch of Smart Water. I think I ordered like 12 of the 1 liter Smart Waters. And I had gone through all 12 of them almost at the halfway point of our trip, which was only a
Wow.
6-day trip, because you just need so much water. So
Mhm.
anyone who's pregnant who would be going, I think either bringing water bottles or having water delivered, as well as electrolytes, bringing some kind of electrolyte with you to
Mhm.
just make sure that you're staying hydrated. I think that was one of the reasons I was able to handle the longer days, is because I was just really making sure to hydrate constantly, like truly constantly.
Yes, that seems extra important right now for you, but
Yeah.
for anybody going to zero, you really go through the water quickly. I used to drink no water. None.
Oh.
None. I don't recommend that. Now I'm never without water.
In life in general, you just weren't a water drinker?
Yes, because I'm from a different generation. We did not grow up having water.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
I saw somebody online show one of the old desks we used to have in school, and the kid was like, "Where do you put your water bottle?" It's like, "No, we didn't drink water."
We
You
had
know?
one Capri Sun at lunch. I'm a
No,
90s kid, and we literally had one Capri Sun at lunch all
yes,
day.
we had milk and occasionally would stop by a water fountain, and that
Yeah,
was it.
that was the
So
end of it.
I had to learn to hydrate, but it's obviously Disney World was a big catalyst for me to learn that as a
Sure,
grown adult. I was
sure.
probably your age when I started drinking water on a
That's really
more
funny.
regular basis, but now it's built
Now it's
into
part of it.
it's just thankfully, because that's very dangerous.
Yeah.
Don't do
With
that.
walking, like, 15 miles a day, you probably need a little water.
Exactly. So, in addition to doing Disney World with 2 kids and being pregnant, you also are a content creator.
I am.
So, how do you build that in? Because I think a lot of people watching the content aren't really thinking about how it's captured, but I'm very much thinking about it.
Yes, and it is tricky. It's really tricky because first of all, my primary focus is on my family, of course,
Mhm,
but additionally, I want to film and vlog and have content to share, and that requires my focus on that. And then
mhm,
another layer of difficulty or just managing in Disney is that it's just so noisy. So
mhm,
there's music playing in the background always. Of course, there's people everywhere. It's just constant noise all the time. And so trying to make sure that I can actually be heard and that what I'm trying to show can be seen. And all of these things are going through my mind like at any given time. And like you, when I see someone post a series of Disney vlogs, I'm always like, thank you so much for filming these. I know how much work it is. It's
mhm.
a whole mental load that you carry the whole entire time. And I know you're the same way when you're in the parks, on your phone constantly because you're trying to share all of this information. And my husband is amazing. He and I are very much like, we just get it. And so he knows that throughout the day, very often, I will just literally pull over and I'm not even saying, hey, I'm going to stand over here and film a segment for my vlog. He just knows. And so I'll just pull over to the side. He'll keep walking with the kids or they'll pop into a store and I'll share a little bit about what we're doing. It doesn't take very long, but it is something that needs to be done in order for the
Mhm.
vlogs to make sense and be cohesive and not just like one random thing in the morning and one random thing in the evening.
Yeah, it's another thing to think about. "Oh, we need to update on what we've been doing the last couple of hours," or whatever. Yeah, I totally get that, but it makes it more tiring. I always tell people, if you know how tiring Disney World trips are, so add work on top of that, and I know it's fun work, but it's still work.
It absolutely is. Yeah, it absolutely is. And I have like a subset of Instagram subscribers that I daily share day in the life updates in the parks. And so I'm constantly taking pictures and
Mhm,
doing the stories. And I know you know about that. So I try to batch them where I'll take like a whole bunch of pictures over the course of an hour. And then if we're waiting in a line for a few minutes, I'll try to post them all at once. So I'm not just on my phone the whole time. But
mhm,
it's definitely an extra layer.
mhm. I often have said I don't feel like I can be a person. Like, it's really hard to interact, it's really hard to be social when you are trying to, like, capture and post so much. And
It is
so
hard.
I get kind of picky about, like, who I'm with because I'm like, "I can't be a tour guide, I cannot help you because 'cause I'm just busy."
Right, you're doing your own thing. Yeah,
Yes.
it is really tricky. I was so surprised the first time we went to Disney, years ago with my daughter at that time who was 18 months old, as I mentioned earlier, how much harder it was. I was shocked because prior to that, well, we could just be walking through the parks and I could be holding up my camera and just
Mhm,
filming as we're walking. But now there's a stroller, there's a baby, she needs things, there's snacks, there's just all my kids had bubble wands on this trip and they're like the bubbles are like popping on the lens of my camera, so I can't use that, but it just constant, it's just managing a lot, juggling a lot. Yeah.
I think those of us who do the parks without kids are more likely to create content because we can. It's easier. But I think those of you that have young kids appeal to people that very much need that information as well, you know?
Totally, yeah, because it's a very different type of trip.
Very different type of trip and hopeful to see it in action because it is, I always say planning with little ones is a whole other layer.
It
Like
absolutely
once you
is.
figure out your dates and your hotels and lightning lanes, oh, then how do we handle strollers and what's the best places to eat with kids and all the things that you have to
Yes.
think about. So it's a lot.
It is a lot, and I'm really passionate about trying to show what Disney trips can look like that are just not frenzied and not a checklist. Like just going and enjoying being together in the parks and
Hmm.
whatever that looks like and leaving things unchecked and just being okay with the fact that not every single attraction is
Hmm.
going to be checked off because I personally find that that makes it just more enjoyable overall because you're just in the moment instead of racing around trying to make sure you do every single thing. It's like
Hmm.
prioritizing and then just doing what's going to work for your family without it being frenzied.
I think that is probably more fun for everybody involved. I think the tricky part is like, let's say your videos convince somebody that they need to go and plan their first trip and they think it's going to be a one time only. So in
Right.
that case, well, I don't want to miss things, but
Exactly.
it's really hard to fit it all in.
It is really hard. That's this tricky part is just going the one time, like what I mentioned with my childhood. My mom was like, it was very overwhelming, back,
Mhm.
and this was truly so long ago. Everything was different, but it was the same kind of feeling.
Mhm. Yeah, it's a privilege to get to just take it easy, but it is the best kind of trip for
It is a
sure.
privilege to do that. Yeah. And it's because we're going back, year after year that I don't feel like it's a huge loss if we miss out on something. But even if a family were to try to go every 5 years or something, there would still be some layer and level of that of like, okay, well, we can, every single thing doesn't have to get done. Or a longer trip at a less expensive hotel. Like there are just so many ways to kind of try to stretch the time so that it doesn't have to be necessarily, if you don't want it to be, like sun up to sundown constant.
Yeah. And you mentioned stretching time. I also want to mention stretching dollars. I'm very passionate about how expensive everything is right now.
Me
And
too, girl.
I know that you plan to do this strategically so that you can afford the trips.
Yes, absolutely. So for this trip, we had been talking about wanting to go sometime in early 2026. And so I had taken out a Marriott Bonvoy credit card and used it responsibly and paid it off and got all these points. And so we were able to stay at the Swan, which is nearby to the boardwalk and the beach club. It's a great location for absolutely free. We were able to use points for the whole stay. And then additionally, we have had a Southwest card for many, many years because we always use Southwest when we fly, and we did the exact same thing. So our flights and hotel were both completely covered, and that makes a huge dent into the trip budget.
Yeah. And then you had food delivered to your hotel. So you had a little
Yes.
bit of food there. So then it's what? Park tickets, lightning
And
lanes,
meals. Yeah, and
meals.
and the lightning lanes, good grief, some of those can add up quickly, but it saves a lot of time.
That's why we created a lightning lane calculator. But unfortunately, people are like, thank you. But also, I don't want to see the number.
It's like, so I have a friend who's about to go to Disney and she's like, Blair, I have budgeted, and she named a number and it is a big number for lightning lanes. And I'm like, that's probably appropriate.
Yeah, it's a ton. But what I like about having a calculator is like, okay, but I don't want you to be surprised like a week before your
Right.
trip.
You need to
And
know going into it.
exactly. And then, so if this calculator helps you be like, yeah, maybe I don't need Animal Kingdom, or maybe I don't need as many lightning lanes as I thought just to hit your budget, then at least there's a tool that can help you.
No, that's totally true because you can go into, I think it's always better to have the information on the upfront rather than afterwards thinking, oh, wow, okay. It's definitely nice to budget ahead of time.
I think a lot of people are just like, it's none of my business. I'm just going to pay for
My
it.
credit card bill at the end of the trip is somebody else's problem.
It's all digital. I don't need to know.
That's funny.
So I kind of like that approach. Just put your hands over your eyes.
Yeah.
But
We'll see
unfortunately,
what happens.
the bill does have to be paid eventually.
Yes.
Unfortunately. Was this your first time staying? Did you stay at the Swan or the Dolphin?
We stayed at the Swan, and it was
this
our
your-
first time.
What'd you think?
I actually loved it. The outside, the architecture of the buildings is so like 90s dated, and I had never been inside any of them. So I wasn't sure what to expect. Of course, I watched some tours online and things, but being there in person, it's a beautiful property. And we really enjoyed it. Our room was really nice. And, there's no Disney touches because it's not a Disney property, it's a Marriott property. And I will say that the level of guest services, customer service is not up to par with what you find in Disney, but we didn't find that to be an issue because we didn't need a lot of things while we were staying there.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, it was really nice being able to walk to the boardwalk, walk over to the International Gateway, to the Skyliner, all really nice.
What is your favorite Disney-owned hotel?
The Beach Club or the Grand would be my two favorite. The Beach Club I really love for its location. Similar to the Swan, because it's just you can get to three parks so easily, and then if you just take the bus over to Animal Kingdom. I mean, you can even take the monorail to Magic Kingdom. Like, it's just so easy. I love that. And the Grand just has my heart in some first. We've just had a couple of special trips there, and I just love it. So
yeah. What's so funny is when I picture you at Disney World, I picture you at the Grand Floridian.
Oh, I love that.
But I think it's because I've watched videos where you were there, and I'm like, that's just where she is. That's where Blair is.
You can keep on picturing me there. I love that. Yeah, I love that. That's my backdrop.
Mm-hmm. That's what I think of. Have you ever considered being a DVC owner?
We have like thrown it around a little bit, but no, we've never considered it seriously. We were trying to rent points for this trip actually
Mhm.
to stay at a Disney-owned property and extend our trip by maybe 3 days or something because I wanted to experience renting DVC points and staying, in a DVC,
Mhm.
room or villa or whatever, and creating content about that, about like what it's like to rent points. I wanted to do both of those things, but we could not on either end of our trip. There was not one thing available. We waited too long. And so that was thrown out. But I would like to try that maybe eventually.
Yes. That would, I mean, but also if you're using points to pay for stuff, that's a different thing.
Sure.
So you may not want to buy DVC points. People always ask me to. I'm not a DVC owner, but people that are DVC owners seem to really like it. And
Yes,
since
I've
you
had many people.
yes, and you like deluxe accommodation, so I can
I
see
do.
that.
We love a nice hotel. Yeah, it would be something I think that would possibly make sense for us down the line. It's just not something that's in at the forefront right now.
It's such an investment, but then the people that have it are like, well, I love having it.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. Okay, so Beach Club and Grand Floridian are favorite hotels. Do you have a favorite character meal?
Probably Tusker House or Breakfast at the Riviera would be my two favorites.
Mhm.
What's it called? Topolino's Terrace.
Mhm.
Yes. That one we loved. We did that on not this trip, but the previous one and really loved it. And I have so many great memories doing Tusker House at like 8 a.m. before the park opens at 9 and going in and the Animal Kingdom's quiet and it's just so beautiful and like heading back there and the safari gear is really cute. So those are my probably my two favorites.
Both have such good food. Cute
Yeah.
characters. Do you have a favorite park?
Epcot's my favorite, specifically the World Showcase. I just love it so much. I find it so charming and fun. And it's funny because as time goes on, the more trips I go, the more Magic Kingdom gets bumped down on my list. It used to be like Epcot number 1 and then a close number 2 is Magic Kingdom. And I'm just enjoying the other parks so much too. So my kids have so much fun in Magic Kingdom. There's so much to do there for them. But I'm really enjoying the other ones as well. But Epcot's my favorite.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm asking you questions that I hate being asked, so I'm a total hypocrite.
It's tricky, but yeah.
Because the truth is, most of us go to all the parks, so
Yes.
don't really have to pick, but some people have a definite favorite. Have your kids impacted what you find like your favorites?
Yeah, because it's so amazing to see Disney through their eyes. And so my daughter, she's sort of already starting to come out of it, but she was in like a huge princess phase. And so doing Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique and doing all princess stuff was just so much fun. And my son is the biggest nature boy ever in this world. And he just loves anything related to animals of any kind. So we spent so much time in Epcot after doing the Finding Nemo ride in the whole aquarium, what's it called? The seas area. Like we spent hours there and he loved that. And that's something that previously I would have walked through and enjoyed, but we spent hours looking at every exhibit and it's just incredible to see it through his little eyes and he just thinks it's so fascinating. So then I think it's fascinating and it's cool the way kids open up your eyes like that.
Your daughter is 6 and already coming out of her princess phase.
She still loves the princesses, but she's kind of more into like Fancy Nancy and Vampirina and some of those others. She's just not as... I will say though, when we watched the Starlight Parade in Magic Kingdom, like Moana made eye contact with her and waved at her. And I mean, she about fainted. It was so cute. So it's not that she's out of it, but she, on the other trips, just asked incessantly, like, could she wear a princess dress? She wanted to wear a princess dress, this, that, and the other. And this trip, it wasn't as much. She wasn't as much like that. She's going to be in first grade in the fall. And I think that it's still really a normal thing, age appropriate or whatever. Like, I mean, I still love the princesses in my 30s, but I think she's just starting to kind of, her interests are shifting a bit.
But it is such a reminder that, like, when your kids are into something, you should, if you can afford it, do it. Like, Beauty Body Boutique is not as much of an option now for your daughter as it used to be, it sounds like.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I think she would still enjoy it, but when we took her that first time a couple years ago, I mean, it was like truly, I just sat there with tears streaming down my face because she loved it. Like, she just lit up and just loved it. And I always hear your voice in my head of like, if you can afford it, just do it.
Mhm.
Your kids are going to grow up so fast and you should. And so we've done Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique. We did it one time on a cruise and then the one time in Magic Kingdom. And both times we're just in that prime princess season of her life. And it was so adorable.
But every trip is a different phase. So you embrace that, even if it's not princesses as much as it used to be.
Yes, yes.
And then soon you'll have a third one and see what they're into.
Something completely different, I'm sure. They all come with their own little set of interests.
Their factory settings.
Yes. And it's crazy because I'm birthing them all, but the factory settings are very different kid to kid.
Very different. Okay, so you just mentioned Disney Cruise, and I wanted to ask about that because we've been talking about Disney World. That's what you've been doing a lot for the last 10 years. At what point did you decide to go on a cruise?
We went on our first cruise in 2017, I believe. We had just been hearing a lot about it, and neither of us had ever been on any cruise of any kind. And we are big beach people. We love the water, and we just thought, well, let's just go try. So we just did a 5-day, 4-night on the Dream out of Port Canaveral, and one stop was in Nassau, and one stop was Castaway Cay. Loved it. Ended up doing it again when I was pregnant with my daughter. So that was the trip that you and I met in person on. It was a land and sea. So we did a few days in Disney World, and then we took the bus over and did a few days on the cruise. And that was so much fun. I actually find the cruises to be more enjoyable personally than the parks. I think my kids enjoy the parks more for sure, but I love a Disney cruise. And then we ended up doing Alaska last summer, and that was incredible. That was just so incredible. We went with our extended family on that, which made it even more special.
Do your kids go to the kids clubs?
They do. And they do love the kids clubs, but our kids they really enjoy being with us all the time. We have always joked, like neither of them have a lovey. They don't have a stuffed animal that they're attached to. They're just extremely attached to us, which is like very great. But also like they're not trying to be in those kids clubs for too many hours, like a couple hours and they're pretty much good.
That's hilarious. But you had extended family, so I suppose you had some other hands.
Absolutely. And they're obsessed. They're also attached to those folks as well. So they would go with their grandma, their aunts or whatever and go do things. And so I felt like it was such a fun vacation because my husband Riley and I still got to like go sit at the coffee shop for an hour here or there because they would be with their cousins or they would be, doing different things with people that we knew were, watching out for them and keeping them safe and whatnot. And we did actually utilize the kids club pretty much every single day for a period of time, but they were not interested in being in there I know I've heard some kids like the parents can't check them out. They don't want to leave. That wasn't our experience, but they also were at that time 3 and 5. So quite a bit younger than some of the older ones who maybe just want to be in there all day.
Yeah. It's different. Not going to fault a 3-year-old for wanting their parents.
No, of course not. He's like, I'll go in and play for a while and then I'm done with that. I want to go
He's like, you go have your coffee, but come right back.
Yeah, he would always say that. We'd be like, we're just going to get coffee. And he'd be like, and then we're going to go get ice cream. I'm like, sure. And they ate their body weight in ice cream cones on that trip. It was great.
For those of us that like hanging out in the adults-only areas, thank you for not taking your kids to the coffee space.
It doesn't really work. It's not really fun for anyone.
They're not supposed to be there, but.
No, it's like we're not, you can't as adults really have a great conversation and the kids are bored. And so it ended up working out so much better for them to go, like I said, do stuff with their cousins or the kids club for a little while.
Yes, exactly. It's good for adults and for kids.
Yeah, perfect.
I feel like I'm being a salesperson for detail. They are doing just fine.
They really are.
But what about Disneyland?
We went to Disneyland once and I loved it. I was super unsure what I would think of it because I had never been and we had been to Disney World so many different times. And I just thought it was so charming. And now I recommend to people who want to take their younger toddlers, I always say I would really recommend, especially we're in Texas, so it's not a super hugely different flight time. I'm like, go to Disneyland because you never have to pack the stroller up, and that's a huge ordeal. And we stayed at the Disneyland Resort Hotel. Is that what it's called? Disneyland Hotel.
Mhm.
And we just walked. We were able to walk to both parks. Everything's a lot smaller, a lot more doable. It was the timing of that trip for us went really well with our kids' ages. I think they were 2 and 4. And we had just a wonderful trip. And you only need to go for like a long weekend or the equivalent, and you can really hit both parks really well. So we had a great time. I loved Disneyland.
And I'm totally agree with you on taking little kids. It's milder weather. If you need to go for a nap, it's easy to walk back. You don't have to get on a bus for a lot of hotels. And it's so cute.
It's really set up for like young families so well when you're with the stroller. I mean, the stroller breakdown situation is a hilarious thing to experience personally and to watch. Like, I mean, people are pulling out, it's like Mary Poppins bag, like pulling out just like coolers and diaper bags and blankets and a million things, and then breaking the stroller down and then opening it back up and repacking it. So it seems like a simple thing, but it actually makes a huge difference.
Yeah, and now you're going to have 3 kids when you're outnumbered. It changes the dynamic. You need it to be as simple as possible. And yeah, I agree. Disneyland's just so awesome. So I'm glad that I wasn't sure what your history with Disneyland had been.
Yeah, just the one trip, but I would love to go back. That might be a good trip for us to go, once this baby's, 1.5 or 2, because it is just so user friendly in that way.
Mm-hmm. So we talked a lot about Disney. Obviously, that's the topic of the podcast and my whole business. But do you like traveling other places as a family?
Yes, we love the beach. So for years, we did Pawleys Island, South Carolina, which is really beautiful. We've done the Outer Banks in North Carolina. My parents recently retired to Naples, Florida. So we've made a trip down there multiple times. We've done Rosemary Beach, Florida. So you'll find us at the beach a lot. We really love that. That's probably our main go-to. Another place we really enjoy going is Broken Bow, Oklahoma. It's
so pretty.
It is so beautiful. You would never be dropped off there and think that you were in Oklahoma. It looks like a mountain town, and you rent a cabin, and it's just absolutely adorable. So we go up there a lot of times in the fall and winter and rent a cabin, and that's a really great, easy trip. And it's like a 3-hour drive for us.
Mm-hmm. I now remember watching your videos about going to cabins and things like that. A little bit of nature.
It's a little bit of nature. The kids love it because they get to be outside all day, and we sit around the fire pit and hang out. It's very relaxed. It's a completely different style of trip than like a Disney trip, but it's a nice change of pace sometimes.
I often think people think of vacations as one big bucket, but really there's different types of vacations. And I feel like if you can get it through your head that Disney World's not relaxing, it's, busy and lots of dopamine you're going to get throughout the trip, but it's not relaxing. You might need to come home and take a nap. Like if you get that in your head beforehand, but I know I'm preaching the choir.
Yeah, totally. It totally is. You're going to come home probably be pretty tired for maybe like a week. Or for me, this time it was like 2 weeks of being
well, you were sick.
I did get sick. I had done so well all winter, and I said to my husband before we left, I'm like, we're going to get sick when we go on this trip. I mean, it's a little bit unavoidable. We did everything we could. We were wiping down the stroller and hands and all this, but you're just among a lot of different people.
It's a petri dish. That's what I always call it.
It literally is.
Mm-hmm. It is. And it's just part of it, especially in the winter months when the flu and cold season and everything. But it can be anytime.
Truly, yeah. I mean, I get sick most times we go to Disney, unfortunately, even with all the protocol I try, to put in place. Well, since we've had kids especially, because, their hands are just straight up everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and they will wipe them on all their aliens and then bite their nails. And
and then they're like sucking. I'm like, no, okay, we got to stop that.
Yeah, or just build your immune system.
We've got solid immune systems being built.
Yes, whatever you need to do.
Yes.
But yeah, I know. It's an unfortunate souvenir that you and many people have brought home. Totally. So you've talked about like historically you've done like 18 months old is like when you would go at, and you'll see what happens to this baby. But we'll see how that goes after you have 3 kids in the parks. But do you have any tips about doing Disney World with kids or while pregnant that you want to share before you wrap it up?
Absolutely. Number one would be just lower your expectations. Just let it be what it is, Like, it's okay if your kid's having a meltdown and you need to go sit down and have an ice cream break for 20 minutes. You don't have to power through because you have a lightning lane. And actually, the lightning lane times were like the grace periods were outrageously long on this trip. So just, I think, to the moms out there who are frenzied, I always feel really sad when I'm in a park and I see a mom who I can just tell needs a hug and someone to say, like, you're doing great. It's okay. And she's so frenzied. And she's spent months planning this and a lot of money. And I just want to say, it's okay to take a deep breath and relax and enjoy. You don't have to do every single thing on your list. So I think just lowering your expectations and realizing that, as an adult who gets easily overstimulated, Disney is very overstimulating. So little kids are going to get very overstimulated a lot of the time too. And so finding those little breaks and those little ways to just let them have a minute where it's not just constant input. And it can be in the parks. Like I said, the courtyard of Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, we were the only people in that courtyard. And the kids ran around and played and had such a great time. And it was a really good decompression time. And then it's just, lots of snacks, endless snacks are always a good idea for everybody, but especially for kids. I think it's just, we have an arsenal on our stroller.
And sometimes pregnant moms.
And definitely pregnant moms. My hand was also in the snack bag multiple times each day. But I think that that's really helpful. And it is a money-saving thing too, because buying a snack in Disney for your kid to like drop half of it or eat half of it or whatever can be a little dicey at times. So just having like familiar snacks that they love, I think can go a long, long way. And it's okay to go back to your hotel and take a rest and let them sleep for an hour or two. It's only a short amount of time in the span of a whole day, but it can make the evening so much more enjoyable.
Mm-hmm. Yes, good advice. One of the reasons that I have never been a fan of minute-by-minute touring plans is I think that it doesn't allow any freedom for some of the things you've talked about. Like, we are going to need to take a 20-minute break. We are going to need to run around a little bit. And you don't want to feel like you're missing your mark. Like, what's the next thing on the list? Don't worry about what's next on the list. It's okay.
Yeah, after we did the Finding Nemo ride in Epcot, we ended up in, like I said, the aquarium area. And I thought maybe we would spend 20 minutes in there. And as I mentioned earlier, we spent a whole lot longer. Well, that was my son's very favorite thing of the whole trip. And he talks about it every single day and seeing the manatees and seeing the sharks and seeing the stingrays. And he just absolutely loved it. And I'm so glad that we were able to just hang out there and just let him soak it all in and enjoy it. And we weren't rushing to the next thing. And we actually had a Living with the Land lightning lane shortly thereafter. But as I just said, the cast members were incredibly gracious, and whatever the system grace period was just, we weren't like 4 hours late, but if like 20 minutes late, 30 minutes late, it never was a problem. And so it allowed us to still skip the lines, but not be in a frenzy.
Mm-hmm. All right. Good advice. And I'm sure your children will love you for it because they're like, Mom didn't drag us to everything. We got to watch the manatee.
We watched the manatees for so long. I'm like, well, we could have gone to the Dallas Aquarium for this, but it was wonderful to be in Disney and do all the Disney things as well.
Mm-hmm. But you can do so many things in one spot and go to the Dallas Aquarium.
It's so great.
All right. Well, it's been so nice to chat with you because normally we're just in like Instagram DMs and stuff. But for people that aren't already following you, where's the best place to do that?
The best place probably is on YouTube. So it's youtube.com/Blair Lamb is my channel. I'm also on Instagram at Blair Blogs. And those are probably the two best places to find me. Or my shop, BlairLambDesign.com.
Yes. And that will all be linked in the description for anybody that wants to just click from there. Thanks for joining me. It's been nice to talk to you, Blair.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been great.
I hope you enjoyed that chat. It was delightful. Blair is so delightful. Be sure to go and follow her. Go look up her t-shirt shop. She is good people, and I think you'll enjoy her if you haven't already come across her stuff before. We did keep talking for the after chat because I wanted to talk to her about some other things that we didn't cover in our main feed conversation. And if you would like to go check that out, it is up on Patreon in both video and audio form. I think that'll wrap up this episode of WDW Prep to Go. For more information, please check the show notes in your podcast app or head to the website, wdwprepschool.com. Click on podcast at the top, scroll down to episode 506. Until next time, I'll see you on the site.